To those of you joining us today, thank you for watching the Woburn Spotlight. I'm your host, Tyler Gates, here to bring you some positivity by talking to those in town, making big strides for the greater good. Today I'm very fortunate to have with me Mary Ann Stewart, who is running for the open seat of State Representative in the 15th Middlesex District. Mary Ann, it's a pleasure to have you with me today.
Thank you, Tyler.
It's great to meet you. I know we got to chat a little bit ahead of time, but why don't we just start off by telling the viewers a little bit about you and what you're here to talk to us about today.
Sure. I live in Lexington with my husband, and we have 3 children, now young adults in their 20s. We moved into Lexington about 24 years ago. My husband was born and raised there. He still had deep roots in the community. And when we came in as a young family, we came in through the affordable housing program. And I've came up through the site council and the PTA at Harrington School. And then I ran for school committee, was elected to 2 terms, served as chair, and then Governor Patrick appointed me to the State Board of Education. And I've been there since 2014. I've been in town meeting also since 2006.
Pretty involved there in Lexington,
Yeah,
you
involved.
and your family. And you got to have the kids go up through the whole system. So you've been very involved.
Been through the system.
Many years.
Yeah. And I've been involved in communities all of my adult life, wherever we lived. But it was once our children really got into the school that I really wanted to understand what they needed to learn and what was expected of them, and to advocate for their needs and to communicate with their teachers and build the community as well in the school. So that was a really great experience. How I got to know so many people in the community was through the school, and then also through town meeting and through some of the public service that I've done over the years. Yeah.
So very involved. I'm sure we're going to talk about past experiences, future, what we hope to accomplish in our lives today. But I'd love to spend some time on the organizations that you've been a part of. It sounds like you've gotten a lot accomplished. Do you mind just sharing a few of the things that you were able to accomplish under the school committee or some of the other organizations that you were involved in?
Well, let me back up a little bit just to
Please
say,
do.
I when I was a kid in elementary school was when they came out with the first Earth Day.
Yeah.
And that's when I got really involved in all things environmental and the ecology. And then in high school, some friends of mine and I started the ecology club, and that was a lot of fun, and that we continued to raise awareness about those issues. And in college, it was about the apartheid movement, and we protested with my friends and things. And then, I had my family, and then it was really working with them and reading and getting them ready for school and stuff. So once we got into the PTA at the school, it just happened to be a PTA school. I didn't really know, but I have come to learn that it's the largest child advocacy association in the country. And our school was really about building community and connecting families and helping families get to know the teachers and the principal. And so I did a number of things in that role at the school, and then had been invited to take on leadership roles many times, but really felt that I wasn't ready to do that until our youngest one got into school. And then I did run for co-president of the PTA, and then we really started taking on a much larger umbrella role at the school. And I remember one of the things that came up one year was we were rebuilding our Department of Public Works building, and they needed to find a place to move all of the DPW trucks. And one decision was made to put them behind the administrative building, which was right next to our school, Harrington Elementary School, which also happened to be nearest the wing for the early education program for children 5 and under who were not ready for school yet, and also half of that program took children with special needs. And it didn't seem like a very good fit to have the diesel fumes going in the intake valves there by that part of the building. So a number of parents raised this issue, and then we advocated for finding different location for the trucks, and we were successful. They did find some space back behind the town hall and some of the buildings in the public administration wing in the center of town. So that was good. We also did some collaborative art projects. My background is in music and in art, And that was, I organized each classroom to create a collaborative piece of art, and then we auctioned them off for funds
Quite
for the
unique.
school. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was a really fun thing to do. Yeah, got a lot out of that.
So from your experiences, what sparked your interest in not just leadership, but politics? It sounds like you've had a leadership role in many capacities. Where did the politics come in? Has it
Yeah.
been something that's been ingrained in you from an early age, or?
Well, certainly civic engagement has been a big part of my background. My parents were liberal Democrats. From them I learned persistence and the importance of speaking up for things that I believe in. And starting as an advocate on various issues, and then moving up into when I became involved in the PTA at Harrington, I also got to know people at the state level PTA and was invited to join the board of directors shortly after I was elected co-president. And that got me involved in a lot of statewide initiatives. And I can't even recount all the task forces and working groups and things, but it started with the Whole Child Subcommittee, which was something that Deval Patrick, once he was elected governor, really focused on 13 subcommittees for his blueprint for public education, the Readiness Project. And one thing just kind of led to another as I took on greater advocacy and started giving more public testimony in the State House and taking on these roles. It was always a call to service, and so with each opportunity was an opportunity to expand that call. And so the reason now I think that I'm running for this seat is largely because it is an opportunity to expand my call to service and to extend my leadership on the critical issues that are in front of us for our families and our communities.
So that's a great segue, and some of these critical issues that we've been talking about are very near and dear to our candidates' hearts. Do you mind sharing a few of the issues that are very close to you and your heart, or what you expect to carry forward with you?
Yes, of course. I am the candidate with the strongest background in public education, coming up, as I said, through the PTA. Then I was elected to 2 terms on the school committee, served as chair, and I've been appointed to the Board of Education. And in this whole time, I've seen the funding issue, beginning with the challenges that we faced beginning 20 years ago with the reduction in revenue by about $3 to $4 billion. And the cuts that we've seen to all of our public structures, not just public education. So I think first is the revenue issue, and then that relates to public education. We know that the Foundation Budget Review Commission took a really close look at the way that the state funds public education. They were supposed to do this on a regular basis since they enacted the Mass Ed Reform Act back in, 25 years ago. And they never did take a look at it. So the commission took a look at it in 2015 and then issued some recommendations, which the Senate has acted on, but the House of Representatives hasn't. Yeah, so that's a big important one for me. I was also one of the original signers of the Fair Share Amendment to get that initiative rolling as a citizens initiative that then handed off to the legislature to amend our state constitution in back-to-back constitutional conventions. And it was supposed to come forward to voters this November, but the Supreme Judicial Court knocked it out of voters' hands this time around, so we'll have to start over. But that was funding for public education and public transportation, which we know our infrastructure has desperate needs. We need funding for better transportation all around. So I would say revenue, public education, public transportation, also affordable health care and housing, safe communities for immigrants and the undocumented. Lexington passed a resolution at town meeting this past spring to make it a safe community for immigrants and the undocumented who pass through or who work in Lexington. And the state needs to do that as well, but they haven't. And that's a disappointment. So that's something that we need to do. And of course, the energy and environment. As we're sitting here, the legislature is debating on the last day of July. It's July 31st, and they have until midnight tonight to enact their final laws. The energy bill that just came out of conference is a watered down version of an amazing bill that the Senate passed earlier in June. And so that's another disappointment. We know the federal government is falling down on that piece for climate change and the environment. We're not going to see anything in the short term, especially for support on that level. And then I think lastly, social, racial, and economic justice. The income inequality that we're seeing is out of control. We need to address the challenges that we're facing, and this is all tied to revenue, and it's tied to jobs, it's tied to housing, it's tied to transportation. So they're all related. The issues that are important to me are the ones that are overlapping and related to each other in many ways.
We have a lot to tackle. What are some of the strengths that you bring to the table that will help you do so?
Yeah, I think my many years as an activist and an advocate, it's listening, really listening to people to enact the best policies. And I think working inside the State House, so I've been outside the State House for many, many years, but I've worked inside with key legislative allies, giving public testimony, of course, to the committees on education and public health and revenue. And I think going forward, it will be to be on the inside, working with grassroots advocates on the outside to build the strongest public policy. That's how you do it. It's really listening. So I think that's a particular strength of mine, and I'm persistent as well. So it's another feature that's necessary, because it takes a piece of legislation will take 6 to 8 years before, that's an average, before it's enacted. And I've seen this happen with the media literacy bill that I've been working on since 2011, and it's awaiting the governor's signature now. It's been folded into a civics education bill, so I'm excited to see that happen, but it's also a testament to, we know that it takes time to craft some laws, but I think also is the challenge that we have in front of us. There's an urgency to move on some things.
Okay.
And I think I will bring that activist spirit to get a move on and push leadership to do the right things and to act on the issues that have a critical impact on our families and our future.
Where do you see that push really being needed?
Well, with leadership, for sure. I would say I will strengthen the Progressive Caucus. Jay Kaufman has been our representative for 24 years, and when he got in there were about half a dozen progressive legislators in the State House, and now there are a few dozen progressive legislators, and so we need to continue to grow the caucus. We will strategize and prioritize and decide how to fan out to our colleagues and to leadership on issues that we think are important and the most important based on priorities and things. And so I think what's also important is to lead on values, and that's something that I've done for all these years as an advocate. It's some people choose to step back and wait until a consensus is formed and then sort of nip around the edges for small incremental change. And I lead with values first and prioritize and build coalitions and make the case and bring others with me so that we can make the case to leaders in the State House and to colleagues so that we can make the change we need to make that will benefit the people in the district and also across the Commonwealth.
Well, thank you for sharing with me and
Sure.
that with the viewers. So, what are you doing currently? I know that you've been out knocking on a lot of doors. I'd love to spend a minute there. You're meeting a lot of folks. You're doing a great job listening, it sounds. Are you doing any coffee events, any events that we could share with the viewers if they were like, I need to meet Mary Ann, I need to meet her soon?
We've done some of those already. We're doing mostly canvassing events. We're really focusing, we're coming into the last few weeks of the campaign, right?
Yeah.
And then it'll be getting out the vote. So it's really, people should take a look at my Facebook page, Mary Ann Stewart for State Representative. And our canvassing opportunities are there. We're canvassing on weekends, and some people are canvassing in the evenings. And so that's where we're really focusing right now. And I continue to knock doors, along with others who are taking that role too. But yeah.
And you said you were averaging a couple hundred houses, at least 100 houses a night.
Oh no, not a couple hundred.
That'd be
crazy.
Exhausting.
Yeah,
That'd be
I don't know
something.
how I could do that.
100,
But no,
what,
my
takes
goal
you
is
3 or
100
4?
a day. My goal is 100 a day, and I've been
100 a
really doing pretty
Sticking
well.
to that goal.
Yeah, really doing pretty well on that.
So as you're going around and listening, one question that I've asked all the candidates is, what questions would you be encouraging voters to ask of their candidates and people running in this race?
I think it's important. I think voters should know that their state representative is available and accessible to them. So questions that have an impact, well, I'll say that most people, when I first knock on their door and ask them what issues really matter to them, are very focused nationally. And so it's really trying to bring them into the conversation at the state level. And we need leaders at the state level who are going to push leadership to stand up to the national government, the federal government administration. We're not seeing a lot of that happening. So when I think people think about it, they see what's happening in their communities. They feel pretty good about what's happening on the state level. But I remind them, that we're strong on women's reproductive freedom, that anything that's happening with the environment and climate change is going to have to happen within the state, because we're not going to get support, as I said, at least in the near term, from the federal government. And the cuts that are being threatened to the Affordable Care Act will also have an impact here. So affordable health care is something that's critically important to families. Also, I've heard a lot about affordable college and making debt-free options available. So people usually share what's personal to them. So there are definitely themes emerge. So it's a great opportunity to get a good sense of where people are in the district and what matters to them. And so I would say they should be asking anything that affects them personally, and find out, where the candidate is on some of these issues and what they can commit to. But honestly, first things first, I need to get elected first, and then and if that is the case, then I commit to having conversations with people. I've got a list going of folks who really want to talk about certain things should I be the state rep-elect, and then we need to have some community conversations on some of these topics as well.
So I know you shared a little bit about your information, how to reach out to you. I want to clarify, because I might have missed it personally. What is the best way if somebody said, I want to have a discussion? How do they go about that? Is it the Facebook page? Is it reaching out via email? What's the best approach?
Sure, we can call me. People can call me. My personal cell phone is 781-354-3020. My Facebook page I mentioned, Mary Ann Stewart for State Representative. Email is Maryann, MARYANN, the number 4, rep, R-E-P, @gmail.com. And I'm on Twitter @MAStewartMA and Instagram @MAStewartMA. So people can catch up on all of those platforms and see what's going on and read what's happening.
Wonderful. And so you're accessible. I know that was one of the words that you said before. I really wanted a state rep, accessibility, and it sounds like you're doing your best to be out there and be visible.
Right.
So I've really enjoyed our time today. We're getting closer to the end of our time together, Maryann. I really want to give you the floor and allow you just to speak directly to the voters that might be watching today.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. There are so many competing and compelling priorities, and our next state representative will have a big impact on our families and our future. And that's why I've been endorsed by leading progressive organizations across Massachusetts. Progressive Massachusetts, Progressive Democrats of Massachusetts, Mass Alliance, and locally Woburn Welcomes. And they say that I'm the progressive choice in this race. And I look forward to hearing from you. If you have questions or concerns, please reach out. And I ask for your vote on Tuesday, September 4th. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, Marianne.
Thanks
I'm
a lot,
excited
Tyler.
to see your progress in this race.
Thanks very much.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. And thank you all for watching today's show with Marianne Stewart, running for the 15th Middlesex District. Remember, we all have one life to live. Let's all do our part. I'm your host, Tyler Gates. Join us again next time for another episode of the Woburn Spotlight.